the MNM PODCAST. It is movies and music and everything in between, where me and my two best friends here are going to be talking about all the stuff that's important to us, movies and music. Basically, the point of this is just going to be us recording, us bullshitting, which we've done for years, but we figured why not put it out there for other people to listen to, because we get told to do this all the time.
I'll hack the movies, that rocks type podcast, completely unnecessary podcast where there's just kind of a chill vibe to it with no overarching theme. Like this week we're talking about this is the idea supposed to, it's going to be about grapes. Every single week we're only talking about grapes.
Gotta need grapes.
Purple grapes only.
Purple grapes.
I don't like green.
Green grapes?
Green grapes are pretty
No, they're sour. I had this argument.
I like green grapes.
Green grapes are. I'm so happy that you guys enjoy green grapes. I'll enjoy my purple grapes.
You enjoy those
I
purple grapes.
equally like all grapes.
Brody's an equal opportunity grape.
I am the equal opportunity grape.
I am the table.
I am the table.
So we figured that we would introduce ourselves, our areas of expertise, and also just kind of talk about our top 5 franchises at the end here, horror franchises specifically, because that's all of our unanimously favorite genre. So
It's about 90% of my movie collection.
It's pretty much mine. That whole shelf behind you is
Yeah.
all horror and sci-fi, so...
And Sonic.
Why do you have John McClane up there, though?
Because he's just cool. He just looks cool in that little space. If you
does.
you can turn on the back on that, and it lights his lighter. It's a Christmas decoration.
John McClane versus Freddy
That's
versus
pretty
Jason confirmed.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. So
California has a few legs.
All right, so go ahead.
I am Seth. I have my YouTube channel, Sega Seth, where it's mostly video game related content as well as YouTube related content, where I talk about everything and anything, and I do toy hunting videos, and I do retro game hunting, but movies are where my passion lies more so than anything. Movies and animation, and I enjoy mostly horror, like we said, but I also am a big animation nerd. My areas of expertise with horror are more classic than the both of these guys. I'm more into Universal and Hammer and Twilight Zone and Black and White era, but I also love just everything related to horror. I really enjoy the aesthetic of Hammer. The Atomic Age type stuff is really fun to me. I was exposed to it at a really early age through TV reruns. I love 80s cartoons and stuff like that. That's more my jam than anything. But like I said, when it comes to music, I'm more of a grunge punk guy. We all unanimously love metal, but it's such a big topic. It's like horror. That's why they go hand in hand. They descend so much together. It's like pro wrestling too. It's not just one thing. It's such a subset of different things when you actually look into it. Not all horror movies are Conjuring. That's just the most popular. Not all wrestling is WWE, etc., etc. So that's where we all come together and we're able to do a really good podcast because we all have different tastes. But definitely my areas of expertise are 80s and 90s, metal, punk, grunge, alternative music. That's my time to shine. And I love comic books and all things nerdy, so that's why I just figured this was a perfect thing. I've known my co-host to the left here over 10 years, and I've known him as well for over 10 years. I met them both in high school, and we've been friends bullshitting about movies ever since.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Oh, me? Okay, I'm rolling. All right, so I'm Brandon. I am, it's kind of weird to refer to myself as Brandon, but I'm not. So I'm the extreme guy. I'm the extreme horror movie. I do the heavy stuff. I'm the death metal, the deathcore, the heavy slam, all that kind of stuff. Also thrash. Obviously, like you said, everybody here loves metal.
All three of us.
I love Metallica. I love Slayer. I love Led Zeppelin. I love Queen. It's everything. my expertise is the heavy stuff. The extreme horror guy. I mean, I love the stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable. I love to feel uncomfortable. I love that feeling of I don't know, the uncomfortability of watching something where you're in a situation in a horror movie that, like, oh god, like it just it gives you that ick feeling. So
makes you feel like you could smell what's happening on
right
the screen.
Yeah. Like it gives you those emotions. But yeah, big on comic books, Marvel, DC, everything in between. You know, Hellboy. I love
nice little slogan, little plug right there.
Yeah, look at that. I'm making T-shirts.
T-shirts.
Marvel,
Funko
DC,
Pops.
And everything in between.
That's
No,
right.
I'd be copyrighted. Disney would get my ass.
Oh boy.
But yeah. So I mean, Flash, Hulk, Lobo. Lobo's a big one. I got Nightwing, Red Lanterns tattooed on me. All that shit.
Oh, I didn't say my favorite superhero if it's not obvious. Spider-Man. But I'm also really big into Batman. They're my two boys. But I know Brody is more of a Batman guy.
But
Vengeance.
Rachel.
Where's the bombs?
When you told me that when you were walking out of the kitchen, you were like, whenever somebody would order that, you'd be like, what do they order? You were like, Rachel!
Yeah,
But,
that's like a Reuben, but with turkey.
That's about me. Horror movies, comics, metal.
We're both really big into kaiju movies as well.
Oh,
so
Godzilla!
If there's any ideas for
Godzilla,
kaiju stuff,
yes,
feel free to
anything. Godzilla, kaiju, Gamera, King
Ultraman.
Kong. Ultraman's okay. He's going to
Yeah,
talk about
that's
Jet Jaguar in the future, and I swear to God.
Everybody, let that be known.
But there's that. I'm going to pass it off to my homie of 15 years plus,
Oh,
my boy Brody.
you make me cry on the first episode.
You just love that you have 5 years on me.
So my name's Brody. My area of expertise in movies is kind of everywhere. I mean, as far as horror goes, my favorite decade is probably the 80s. That's probably the most consistent one because that was like the
speak up a little bit, because of the mic. Sucks.
okay, because that was like the era of like the slasher, which was really popular, which is probably my top subgenre of horror.
I think that's all of ours, yeah.
I mean,
No paranormal.
I like a little bit of everything as far as like movies go. I mean, I'll watch anything. Mainly stuff main stuff I stay away from is like I'm very picky about comedies. I mainly just like older stuff, like anything from the 70s, 80s, or 90s. Not too much from like the new era.
It's because it's garbage.
Step Brothers.
I mean, that's probably the best monster movie of all time, other than The Hangover.
Hangover is up there. I don't remember the third one at all.
But
John Goodman was in it. That's what I remember.
he was great in that movie.
Yeah, he was the bad guy.
But as far as like my area of expertise, I guess you could say, 80s horror, like I said. I like a lot of action movies. Action's probably my second favorite.
Yeah, that's what
genre next to horror.
That's what I associate with you.
You're-
More so than action than anything.
Right.
You're really good at the classic stuff too, like the 70s and stuff with your
Yeah.
parents and everything. Zeppelin,
Yeah,
heavy.
As far as music goes, I mean, I'm definitely a metal guy, but I listen to a little bit of everything.
Yeah, your library of music was always really cool to get music off of
Right.
in the olden times because
Yeah.
you just had everything.
We'd all go to Brody's house and go into his basement and put music on our iPods off his iTunes.
It was like going to the record store. Like
Right.
it had to be the same experience because that oh my god, it was new music every time.
Yeah, my area of expertise as far as like music goes, it's mostly like the old school metal, like anything from the 80s, like Judas Priest, Metallica, Motley Crue. A lot of the older like classic rock bands like Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Pink Floyd,
Yeah, that's
Deep Purple, The Doors. I mean, my mom both my parents grew up in the 60s and 70s, and they were both into all that classic rock.
Shout out Brody's parents, some of the greatest people I know.
Yes, absolutely, without a doubt. I would say unanimously, I love all of our
Oh, all our parents are pretty fantastic.
All of our parents have been universally very loving to all three of us. Definitely.
I mean, I also listen to like newer stuff. I do like some of the super heavy stuff, like some of the deathcore stuff, even though it's not my area of expertise.
Be him more than anything.
Over the years, I've grown to like a lot more pop music.
Yeah.
Because I realized how catchy everything is, and a lot of the pop music that I hated in the 2010s, I really like now because it's nostalgic.
It all started.
Reminds me of simpler times.
Yeah, it all started when I found the album. What was the album with Wrecking Ball on it?
Oh shit, that was
No. This.
What was it?
This started with Brody. The first thing I seen on his iTunes that was not metal was Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga was fantastic.
It was Lady Gaga, and I was like, really? It surprised me.
She knows. My sister listening to this now.
She knows how to write a hook.
No, she's catchy.
She's catchy. I'll definitely say
that.
I wanted to say that.
What it was called.
Wait, everybody go look up Big C-Man versus Lady Gaga on YouTube.
Absolutely. That is one of the greatest. That guy's probably like a CEO of like some major company now. But that video is
so much unwarranted hate for Lady Gaga. It's
poor
like
bastard.
It's so funny.
But did you guys want to do your horror stuff, and we could start with like honorable mention, and then we could go around the table and go down?
So essentially, we figured that we would just knock this out of the way. These are not our individual favorite horror films. That would be a list for a different day. These are our franchises, whereas we view them as the most important to us, not as the industry. So, for example, Star Wars is an important film. Ninja Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze is not. But I love that movie.
It's a fantastic movie.
It is something that you enjoy and something that is important are very different. However, this is a meeting of both. Mm-hmm. Citizen Kane is an important movie. Star Wars is an important movie. Citizen Kane, however, is what I like to call film school favorite. As somebody that studied film in college, that is the film school favorite. Your meeting in the middle would be Star Wars. So it's you have to find that middle ground. So these franchises are the middle ground of both important to us and important to the genre in film as a whole. Because horror universally is not the Academy or film school's favorite genre.
It's always been, I'd like to quote Tom Holland, the director of Psycho 2, and I think the writer of Child's Play. He said it best in the In Search of Darkness documentary. Horror has always been the redheaded stepchild.
Absolutely.
Like, up until, like, probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago.
Even then.
Maybe 20 years ago. I mean, horror was not well loved by the film community. They always looked at it as disposable trash.
No, yeah, I'll tell you, horror was not loved until at least into the early 2000s. You can't, and then that's when
which is insane because that's when like the least like that was like one of the lowest points of horror history.
I mean, there were some really good films coming out,
but they were so far and few between.
But that's when these films started to become nostalgic. The Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Halloweens.
Yeah. That is definitely the decade of the remake.
Yeah, definitely. That is when those remakes started to come out. You got the Rob Zombie's Halloween. You got the Friday the 13th remake. You got that shitty Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Oh my god, I hate that. Oh my god, I hate that movie.
But like,
well, what? Oh, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say, but like, I think what really signified the love for horror was, like you said, you know, a lot of franchises were getting remakes. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre got a remake in 2003, which is probably my favorite horror remake of all time.
What a great movie!
Because it's so well done.
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead was a really good remake.
That is a good one.
I think as far as like horror in the 2000s, I think what really kind of set it off was 28 Days Later, because nobody had ever seen zombies like that before, and just the way the movie was like filmed.
Well, don't they say that
it was filmed like it almost looked like a snuff film, like a documentary.
Isn't that what they like say started the running zombies?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, like, to me,
Yeah.
that's the first
like the sprinting zombie.
That's
Yeah.
the first example that I can think of. But it's weird because the 2000s, you had, starting with the Texas Chainsaw 03 movie, from that point to about 2009 was nothing but remakes.
Yeah.
Sequels to remakes, remake,
Yep.
prequels.
Yep.
And then when the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street ones came out like a year apart from each other, right then and there was when zombies started taking off.
Yep.
So it was almost like a transitional period. Because zombies, from like 2008 to about 2015 maybe, give or take, zombies were everything.
Mm-hmm.
They were in everything because of video games and because of Walking Dead.
Dead Rising.
Dead Rising, Left 4 Dead, Resident Evil.
Oh, Left 4 Dead, Resident Evil. Yeah.
Walking Dead was a big player.
It was a huge.
That pretty much reignited the zombie genre. And I mean, like I said, that show, definitely ran its course.
Into the ground.
It ran way too long, but those first 7 seasons, I mean, it's probably some of the best storytelling you'll ever see in anything zombie related. It's probably some of the best effects for being a cable TV show.
Yeah.
You'd say that?
You'd
say that?
I would even say that.
Yeah. I mean,
I stopped that show after the 3rd season.
Yeah, it's about when I stopped.
But I've been thinking about going back and sitting through it and rewatching it. But if you're giving it the praise that you're giving it,
honestly, the best seasons are probably the first season. Second season's okay; it drags a little bit, and then 3 through 7 are probably the most solid seasons.
Really?
3 through 5 is when they're in the prison, and that has the governor and all that stuff, which was a cool character.
well, don't say anything.
What?
Well, I'm saying just don't spoil anything.
No, I'm not spoiling
Okay.
anything. I'm just saying in general. And then, in season 7, you had the introduction of Negan, which was
I know you love him.
I mean, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he was already a pretty well established actor at that point, and he's a really good actor. But that character, I mean, he was like the first legitimate threat that all the characters had in that show.
No, I have only seen clips and scenes and stuff of that, but from what I've seen, he's killed the character, and that's one of the reasons I've thought back to go back and rewatch that show is from the clips and scene I've seen from when Negan was on the show.
Well, and then it's almost like that revitalized that show.
Oh, definitely.
Because that was
the show was kind of
6 years into the show.
It was its peak. Yeah. I think that was its peak.
I think the peak was 2012, and then it was starting to fade out again, and then right around then, I would say when did Daryl was he introduced?
No, Daryl's always been there.
Daryl was I want to say in the 3rd episode.
Yeah.
I cannot remember it for the life of me. I stopped at the beginning of season 3. I read the comics.
Yeah.
Daryl's not a character in the comics. Well, at least back then.
The comics are so different
The
from
comics
the show.
are so good.
Well,
the comics are great.
I liked the comics.
The other thing is the comics ended I think actually no, the comics didn't end. I don't know if it's still going.
No, it ended.
It ended.
It ended.
Okay.
Because when that was about to end, because the creator, his name escapes me right now, Robert Kirkman.
Yeah.
Robert Kirkman, when he did a cameo in something with Kevin Smith. I want to say Reboot, and they were on the set of that.
What, Jane Silent Bob Reboot?
Yeah,
Okay.
they were on the set of that, and Kevin Smith said, "Hey man, when are you gonna end that? You'd be ending that. It's been running its course. You'd be ending it." He said, "I don't know, man. You just gotta keep in touch. You never know." And it ended a month later. So
I think they stopped following the comics. I want to say after season 7.
Was it that late?
It was almost, I think, after. It was either a season after or a couple episodes after Negan got introduced, because there's a scene, which I'm sure you know about. There's a scene in the show I'm not going to spoil it, just in case.
Are you talking about the barbed wire bat?
Yeah, the scene where where Negan and the Saviors, I think their names were, where the Saviors basically surround Rick and his group. Well, basically, like, that was probably one of the most accurate comic to screen adaptations I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like the scene, the setting, the effects, the lines, the acting. I mean,
atmosphere. Yeah.
Well, I know that like when TV, like adapting TV show, like comics to specifically TV, not movie, talking exclusively TV, not animated. They do such a different take every single time.
Right.
Because look at Riverdale. I've watched like hardly anything related to that show.
Facts.
It's nothing like the Archie comics.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, Legends of Tomorrow, DC, Gotham, they're all their own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Preacher, but I've been told Preacher is very adapted from the comics to that, like that as well. Even The Boys. The Boys is not a network-related show, but in my experience with the comics, it just seems like there's so much pre-built that they had to kind of... Weird example, but Diary of a Wimpy Kid, where you had to combine multiple things to one specific time frame.
Yeah, yeah. The Boys definitely like keeps grounded to itself, but the storylines are completely different. Where I mean, I don't want to spoil anything because Brody hasn't watched The Boys.
That's like a huge meme that's been going on for years.
It's gonna keep going until you watch it.
Wait, wait.
No.
Go.
Do you think Brody should watch The Boys?
Let me just say one thing. I've said this multiple times to everyone. To the boys. No pun intended.
He's a liar.
Once the new season gets announced, because I know there's a new season coming.
Oh, yeah.
Once the date gets announced, I will go back and watch the show.
I'm holding you to that.
I will hold you to that. You have this on record now.
I'm stating this on record as on the first episode of the podcast because that way I can watch everything, and then once the new season comes out, I won't have to binge the hell out of it. I can just watch episode by episode and follow it.
I think it's also because you can't get it, like, well, I guess you can, but like if I guarantee you that if this was 10 years ago, and we were walking around at FYE, okay, and you saw that DVD set there, and it was the first 2 seasons, probably for like $300.
Oh,
you would have picked it up and you would watch it.
$300 for 2 seasons.
I guarantee you that would be the price.
Believe me, when I saw at Walmart when they first released those first 2 seasons on DVD, just by looking at the cover art alone, it was tempting to buy.
Was it Walmart or Target?
It was either Walmart or Target. I can't remember.
If I would have saw it, I probably would have picked it up.
Yeah.
I legitimately love that show. But my point here, before I derail, was that Walking Dead is so, like, from what I saw and compared to the comics, was so spot on in the different, like, portrayals, and the shots were so just accurate compared to everything else, like I said, the last 20 years or 10 years at that time. Arrow, Flash, everything, which wasn't out yet, but my example is there. They were so accurate to the source material. And this was MCU's barely 2 years in. Mm-hmm. Dark Knight's still fresh.
I mean, at this point, like, I mean, when Walking Dead got introduced, at that point we only had
Iron Man,
Hulk, and Iron Man 2.
That's it.
That was even before Captain America or Thor.
Yeah, so, like, you know, comic books being adapted like that to getting that much respect was, like, unheard of.
Yeah.
And I mean, to just put it into perspective at how groundbreaking that show was and how, like, universally loved that show was, I mean, my mom, who is not a horror person at all, and not a zombie person at all.
That was common.
Loved that show. I mean, she and I watched that. I mean,
shout out to Brody's hippie mom.
Like she could get past all the because she loved the story and the characters, she can get past all the gore and the violence.
And that was a big common thing that I had people coming up to me, and they were like, hey, can I borrow some zombie movies? I've been watching Walking Dead with my mom and my dad, and they really like it, and I know you've got that kind of stuff. And I would be like, yeah.
Plus,
well, which ones would you recommend? And it was just like, everybody, like everybody I knew was like coming up to me and talking about it. The people I would not intend on watching that because of how adaptive that had been. It was insane.
Right.
Okay. All right. Let's speed through our horror stuff.
Yeah.
And give a quick synopsis on why. But start with your honorable mention, and then we'll go around the table like we did. So do your honorable mention.
Are we all doing our honorable mention?
Yeah. You do yours, then I'll do mine, then you do yours, and then we'll go 5, 5, 5, 4, 4. Yeah.
We tend to get off the rails whenever we chit chat.
We're just rolling.
Which is the point of this podcast.
This is the point of the podcast, to capsulize it.
So basically, the hardest thing for me was keeping horror adjacent stuff out of it. Like Gremlins and Ghostbusters, for example, are two very important franchises to me, but they are horror adjacent. They are not horror,
Right?
Which is hard for me to do.
It's like Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park,
That's
Alien,
that's horror adjacent. They're creature feature movies.
Alien, Predator, Jaws, all of that.
Godzilla.
Mm-hmm. You know, but my honorable mention is going to be, and this is crazy to say this, my honorable mention is going to be Halloween. And that is because I left it off of there. It's okay.
He didn't mean it.
I adore Halloween. It was that's usually my go-to for my favorite horror movie, along with another movie that will be on this list for sure. But I left it off of there because I knew Brody would talk about it. And I kind of went into this kind of wanting to have a list of things that wasn't going to be all three of us circle jerking the same movie.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So, Halloween is my honorable mention. I love every Halloween. I think we had this conversation the other day. I legitimately only dislike 2 Halloween movies. The rest of them, despite them...
H2O?
I like H2O.
You like H2O?
I like
What's
H2O.
your 2 dislikes?
The Rob Zombie 2.
Oh, I was about to say, if you say the first one, we're
I
throwing hands.
I like that one.
Table just...
And what, Halloween Ends? Because it sucked?
Halloween Ends, yeah. The other ones, I mean, like, obviously I know H2O's not good.
Great.
I like it.
You know my favorite franchise, which I'll talk about shortly.
I'm aware, and that's not on mine either, but however, that was hard for me not to choose, but I wanted, like I said, to push away. And the ones, I think we know each other well enough to know the ones that are, some of them, and I think we all have some curveballs, but Halloween, definitely, it is the big guy. It is the one that'll put you in the mood. The big guy. And I love it to death. But if you're talking individual movies, it would definitely be in the top 2. It would definitely top 3. 78 is amazing.
Oh, it's one of the classics.
It's one of the most important horror movies ever. But,
change the genre.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, this is going to throw you off for a loop, I will tell you. Because this only got decided within the last 24 to 48 hours. So,
I thought you were going to say minutes.
Me being the extreme guy, my honorable mention is the Human Centipede.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So,
when those came out, we watched them a lot.
Well, okay.
The first 2.
So, the first one is a fun movie. You sit through, you watch this doctor perform this operational surgery on these people that he think is going to be this incredible thing. He thinks it's going to be a breakthrough for medical. He's deranged enough to think this is going to work. And
that is a messed up movie.
Yeah, and it's fucked up. It's fucked up to think, to think about the premise of that movie. But anyway, to make it quick, the first one, leading into the second one.
We went that long without saying fuck.
Oh, wow.
That's going to be the first time. I'm probably not going to have to edit it because it's past the autopilot thing.
But the second one leads with the guy who loves the Human Centipede because he's self-aware. He's watching the first movie and he's wanting to participate in the acts that this doctor does. He's obsessed with recreating this acts that this doctor does in the first movie. And that was so fascinating to me for some reason. And It's grim. It's bleak. It is
Especially the
gritty.
second
It
one.
is hardcore. If you have a weak stomach, definitely do not watch this
What?
movie. But I'm just saying, as the extreme guy sitting down watching the first, second, and I'm in the middle of the third one right now before I came over
I
here.
remember nothing about the third one, but I know we've watched it.
I know the third one is not
Never
that
even
good.
See the third one.
The third one, I watched it
Watched
years
it
ago.
once.
Yes,
me,
once.
with me.
Yes, and
Yeah,
I remember it being not
nothing
that
about
good.
it.
But watching the first and second one, and then I was like, I watched the first and second one within the last 48, 72 hours, and then I was like, you know what? That's well enough to sit in my list, and I'm getting halfway through the third one,
Yeah.
but that's willing to sit in my list for the honorable mention.
I actually really enjoyed the first one
Mm-hmm.
because it was more, yeah, it's grim and it's, very bleak and very morbid and like very messed up, but it's a psychological movie too
Mm-hmm.
because like the guy that's doing it is a legit surgeon.
Mhm.
Like the dude like does everything right, quote unquote right in the medical book. But he's just out of his mind.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like the second one too. The
See,
second one,
I didn't like the second one
I
just
liked
because I
it.
feel like it was all substance, I guess you could say.
It is.
Like it was all like just like, hey, let's make this for the sake of it just being bad.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
part of the reason it's there is for the sake of being as fucked up as possible, and
right.
for me, that's what accents the first one. It's this guy doing these grisly things because he's trying to be like this medical surgeon doctor
Right.
who can
I
perform
think-
these surgeries.
and I think that's more interesting.
Yeah,
I think
no,
that's
what I'm
more
saying.
interesting,
So
yeah.
he kidnaps these people and tries to perform these surgeries, and you see when he does these things that he does not perform them well. You see them
Right.
get ripped apart. You see
Right.
them mess up and stuff because
Yeah.
he's not able to
'Cause he's
perform
obsessed
like
with
yes,
the movie.
yes,
Yeah,
he's
which
not able to
I like
perform
that
to a medical
concept.
surgeon.
Yeah.
But anyway, I will give it up about the human centipede. You can.
I just one more thing about the
Yeah,
human
yeah.
centipede. I think what also turned me off on it was I think like it's cool that it was in black and white. I thought that was a nice touch.
The second one.
Second one,
Yeah.
And I think just what turned me off about it was the whole. I'm not going to describe it, but the sandpaper.
Yeah,
scene.
Yeah.
I'm like, I saw that. I'm like,
That ain't no
this-
Fozzie
I'm
sandpaper.
I'm like, this movie.
Sandpaper.
That ain't
Wow.
no Fozzie
Shout out to
sandpaper.
Chris Jericho and the boys in Fozzie.
Okay, what's your honorable mention?
So my honorable mention. It's kind of tough to decide on this because I love like most of the movies in this franchise, but I'm gonna say Nightmare on Elm Street.
Woo!
Mainly because all the other franchises on my list, I think, trump Nightmare on Elm Street. I love the first three. I think the third one is one of the best sequels ever made.
Yeah, I love
Yes.
Four is meh. 5 is really rough to get through.
Five is a chore.
5 is a chore to get through.
Chore to snore.
I do not like New Nightmare.
What?
I'm not a look.
Okay.
Okay. 1 to 3. 1 to 3 is. I love 1 to 3.
You like two?
I do like 2.
I love two.
I love two.
I do
two-
like
I
2.
think 2 gets
I like
past
1 to
8.
3. 4 was all right. What is 5's Freddy's Dead?
No, 5 is the Dream Child.
Dream Child. Okay.
That's
yeah.
my least favorite one.
Yeah.
Out of the whole
5.
franchise,
5 is the
Not
least I
counting
remember about.
the remake.
But I mean, New Nightmare, the remake. The remake is definitely over New Nightmare of least liking. Like
Right.
it's. I mean, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. I don't know what they're gonna do when he passes away. I mean, I know eventually they're gonna recast. They're gonna
Yeah.
remake, but
They've said Kevin Bacon. For
What?
For whatever reason, a lot of people are
because
backing
you gotta
that.
get loose.
I mean, he's.
foot loose. Kick off your Sunday shoes.
Whenever I
Just-
hear that, whenever I hear Footloose, not to get off topic, whenever I hear Footloose, all I think about is Pops singing that in a regular show.
that, and then in American Dad, there's an episode where he tells people that he's Kevin Bacon, the alien Roger.
Yeah.
And there's a part where he like dances to Footloose, and it's just you just see this fat alien dancing to that, and that will always be in there.
You do your honorable mention. I'm gonna go pee real quick.
I did my honorable mention.
Oh yeah, you do your number 5 then.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
gotta
mean,
go
I was just one more.
Oh yeah,
thing.
you go.
One more thing I'm just gonna add about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Like I said, I love the first 3 movies. It's like an obstacle course.
I'm leaving that. I'm leaving that
We're
in.
professionals.
I'm not editing that out.
But I mean, like I said, 4 and 5 are just really rough to get through. The remake's not good. Jackie Earle Haley does a fine job as playing Freddy, but I didn't like the way they wrote his character.
Especially at the time, he
and
was
plus,
definitely somebody that
90% of that film is CGI, and I don't mind CGI in movies, but if there's one thing I hate CGI in, it's horror because it doesn't work.
I think that horror was the genre that pushed practical being the most important element of it
Right.
for years.
Right.
Like sci-fi definitely and action and stuff like that, but horror uses more elements of destruction and gore and everything than anything else.
It uses it to more or less make you believe what they want you to believe.
Absolutely.
Like you know, it's like a good example. Good example would be John Carpenter's The Thing. I mean,
Perfect example.
The practical effects in that are so good. Like, it almost looks like that thing, quote unquote, could be real. But I mean, as far as like the rest of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, I personally love Freddy's Dead. A lot of people don't. I think Freddy's Dead is one of the best ones.
I think it's underrated.
I love New Nightmare. I think the first Nightmare, the third one, and New Nightmare work really well as a trilogy. But I mean,
That's
yeah.
crazy because as much
Nightmare-
as you like Scream.
Nightmare on Elm Street
Yeah.
is probably my my honorable mention.
Okay.
Mainly because of 4 and 5, because 4 and 5 are just really rough to
No,
get
I
through.
understand that. That's fair.
That's fair.
My number 5 choice is predictable, but it was one of the first horror movies that I had ever seen. Was the first entry in this franchise, and it is one that I rewatched a lot, mostly because it's just never gone away. Child's Play. I love that. I'm in love with Jennifer Tilly. It's very well known.
That's an understatement.
That
Very
is an
attractive.
understatement. You know, she's my girl. I love the characters. The show is so good. For a franchise, you know, horror is one of those things where, like, there's 1,000 sequels is like a trope.
Mm-hmm.
And people, I don't think, stop and realize that Scream and Chucky, Child's Play, are one of the few franchises where there isn't huge slogs, in my opinion.
Yep.
Not everybody likes Seed. You know, I get that.
It's my
I
least favorite, but it's still not terrible.
I will
like
tell.
Seed.
I will tell you the only one that was a miss for me was Curse of Chucky.
Yeah, I agree.
When he looks up Voodoo for Dummies and stuff in that
Yeah.
book, that is the only.
See, I love that joke. I thought that joke was
You love
funny.
that? Yeah. I mean, I understand loving that, but that in the franchise, that is the only one that's a miss for me.
I'm with you. Cult was a little everywhere, but the show is both seasons of the show. Because when we say these franchises, because there's going to be another one that's going to be incorporated with this.
Was Colt the one where he had Voodoo for Dummies?
It might have been called because
That's the one with the
Curse is the one with the lady in the wheelchair, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, where it takes place at the house.
Yeah. Okay. So
House
So
Asylum.
I'm thinking Colt. Okay.
Yeah. Curse had some slog moments too.
Curse, I don't fondly remember. I think I've watched it once. But, okay, what I'm thinking of is Colt. Colt is the one that stuck out
Yeah.
to me as being...
Curse was okay. I just feel like it was such a copy and paste at the time.
It kind of was. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
The Conjuring with Chucky.
It was kind of also like a copy and paste of the first one a little bit. But I kind of like the fact that they went back to that formula.
This is not counting the remake either. I'm not a big fan of the remake. I don't hate it, but
I'm not a
fan of it.
We all love Mark Hamill.
I love Mark Hamill.
The movie itself I didn't like the whole AI thing.
I'm definitely in the minority, but if you don't look at it as a Child's Play movie, I like the
Yes.
movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Same thing, if I don't go into it thinking this is Chucky, Child's Play in the universe, same thing with, off topic, but Venom and
Godzilla.
Joker and stuff like that.
Or
Right.
Godzilla. The legend.
If you
That's
go
how I'm
into it
looking at
not
Godzilla.
thinking that it's canon or it's the actual character, I like it more. As a Child's Play movie, I don't enjoy it as much. As its own movie thinking outside the universe,
Yeah.
I thought it was
Don't
fun.
get me wrong. Some of the kills in it are fantastic.
Yeah, and it definitely was good with gore, but
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I love the show. My favorite
Show's
one.
fantastic.
My favorite one of the franchise is definitely Just to Be Different. Bride.
Bride's
2 is the
Yeah.
best. Bride is my favorite.
Yeah.
Those movies are a lot of fun. I like camp. I like when stuff doesn't take itself super seriously. Especially
the soundtrack of Bride of Chucky is rocking alone.
the aesthetics. It's just overall
Look at the soundtrack.
great,
real quick.
great installment. And Child's Play was really what started it all for me. I ordered that on demand with Nick.
No, me.
all
We
the
ordered
time.
all of
And
them.
we did that.
Yeah,
too.
we did that summer
too.
where we watched
Yeah.
every single one.
But I rented that on VHS when I was probably like 6, and I watched it all the time. What is the soundtrack?
So we got White Zombie, Cold Chamber, Monster Magnet, Judas Priest,
Shout out
Typo
Cold Chamber.
Negative.
Never mind, because Cold Chamber's on there.
My girlfriend, my girlfriend will be so mad.
Slayer, Power Man 5000, Bruce Dickinson, Motorhead,
Oh my
Static
God.
X. I mean,
Holy
it's,
cow!
Damn, that's a nut
It's-
for my girlfriend.
I mean, it's all music of the time, you know,
Right.
Well, yeah, but I mean, just overall,
which all holds up incredibly. Well.
Yeah.
I-
Everything on there slaps.
and I like Child's Play 3. I know a lot of people don't. I do.
It's
Yeah.
not, it's
No,
not-
I don't
it's
mind
not
it.
bad.
I like 3. I enjoy Seed, like I said. Curse and Cult are okay. I like the characters in that. The chick in the wheelchair, Nina, she's great.
Mhm.
You know, and the show has completely just taken everything good about the whole franchise in the same way that another horror franchise show that will be definitely brought up later did a fantastic job of doing is mixing
I'll say
everything together.
it reinvigorated it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
For a moment. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Child's Play, number 5 for me. Easy.
All right. Well, my number 5, which I'm sure might be up on. It'll be on your list. I'm not sure if it'll be. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, I think it'll be on your list. I don't know if it'll be on yours. But
It's not
this?
polite to point.
I could fart right now and clear this room out.
Please don't. Please don't.
It is.
a
It
little
is.
warm.
It is a little warm.
It's because we didn't want the AC on.
But okay.
Putting a little fan
But
next to
Scream is my number 5. Scream. I love how the universe is so intricately webbed. I'm not going to go too much into it because I know it's on Brody's list. But is it on yours?
It's on mine.
Okay. But Scream, the universe is so intricately webbed. I love the continuation. I love the meta. I love the self-awareness of the humor and the horror and everything like that. They do it very well. 1, 2, I would say 3 is my weak link.
Mm-hmm.
Jane,
One-
Silent and Bob are in it. That's
I-
the best part of the movie.
Yes, but I like 1 and 2. 4, I remember seeing in theaters and loving, and I know that's not going to be a popular opinion,
I love 4.
but the scene of her in the bedroom and her saying, "I'm not in your closet,"
when
and
you
she
saw that,
Yo,
you told me about
she
that.
comes
you were like,
out
you need to see this.
and
I
rips
was
her
like,
guts
"What?"
out and everything, and
Yeah.
I
That
loved it.
scene, I permanently remember you talking to
Yeah.
me about that. You with your bowl cut and your Suicide Silence t-shirt coming up to me, you're like, "Oh, that's a school party." He's like, "I'm not in your closet," and I was like, "I get to say this."
Shout out to the Black Crown Suicide Silence shirt that Brody got me for my 16th birthday.
Shout out to the Black Crown in general. That album's fantastic.
Facts.
R.I.P. Mitch Lucker.
But yes, so Scream 5 and 6 both encapsulated me.
Did you see my 5 poster?
Oh, Yeah.
That's cool. Dob's got that for me.
I'm looking
Shout out
forward
to
to
Retro
7.
Replay.
I know the career's probably on its end path, or I know the franchise is probably on its end tail now. I'm sure if not 7, maybe 8 will be the last one.
I think 7 would be a perfect
7 would be
stopping
good.
point.
But I love the intrication of the Stab franchise, and I'm just going to say that Scream's my number 5. I'm not going to go into it anymore.
How do you feel about the show?
I watched the first season, and it didn't encapsulate me
Yeah.
same way that the movies
I heard
did.
It got better after the first season.
I did hear that. I thought about going back and rewatching it, but I watched the first season. I don't remember much of it. It didn't encapsulate me.
No, I'm with you on that one.
But number 5, Scream, definitely go for it, Brody.
So my number 5, I actually had to come up with this on the fly because there was a little miscommunication, but it's no big deal. But
My
you know,
notorious miscommunication will
It's all-
continue to go on.
it's all good. But because it's horror, it was
You breaking kayfabe?
But because it's horror and because horror is my favorite genre, it was really easy to come up with 5. So my number 5 is probably Evil Dead, because, I mean, compared to the other 4 on my list, the other 4 trump that franchise in my opinion. But the Evil Dead movies, I mean, what more can be said about them that hasn't been said already? I mean, the first one changed the game. I mean, the effects in it were just, I mean, it's almost still hard to watch to this day in some scenes. I mean,
absolutely.
personally, there's some scenes in that movie that I can't watch while I'm eating because the effects are just so visceral.
I know what you're talking about.
Evil Dead 2 is probably my favorite out of the franchise because
That's my go-to.
It's probably one of the best horror comedies, and it's like kind of where horror.
Without a doubt.
I feel like it's also where horror and comedy like started.
Yeah.
Like other than not counting like the Abbott and Costello stuff with like Frankenstein and the Wolfman, but like as far as like
in Blackula,
in like as far as like starting like dark comedy and horror, that's kind of where it started.
which is, and Sam Raimi is when it comes to like alive horror directors, it's probably my favorite because he's the one that is able to do so much with that type of genre.
Right.
I legitimately, I mean,
Plus the fact
It's
that
a spoiler alert. It's going to be on my list at some point. I have a fucking Evil Dead tattoo. I mean, it's going to be expected.
plus the fact that that basically Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell were just kids out of college when they made this film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the budget, I'm looking at it right now, the budget was $375,000.
that's insane.
I mean, all they did was go up to a cabin in, I think, Tennessee, and just film what they could with like no budget, and it made $2.7 million in the
And
box
created
office.
one of the most valuable franchises in the industry.
And created one of the most iconic horror characters of all time. Army of Darkness. Everyone loves Army of Darkness, and it's always at the top of their list as far as like ranking the movies.
I
But
love that
honestly,
movie.
it's probably my least favorite one out of all of them because I think it's because it's so left field compared to the other ones.
Look, Army of Darkness, I understand the appeal of it. Seth always talks about him loving this movie. We have an argument about 2 versus Army of Darkness.
15 years.
But
I love Army
I'm gonna
of Darkness.
Evil Dead is on my list. I'll get to it more when I'm in there. But 1 and 2 are great horror comedies.
Yeah.
And then the remake and Rise both appealed to me.
Yeah,
like as you guys
Well,
know of me, they appealed to that
Yeah.
fucked up
Well, I
over the
mean,
top.
I mean, Evil Dead, the remake of Evil Dead is probably one of my favorite remakes.
Oh, yeah.
because,
Oh,
I
easily.
mean, the effects, the dialogue,
That final scene.
the
it's
fi-
literally
the
raining
final
blood.
scene where it's literally raining blood, and she's got the chainsaw.
Yeah.
And then Evil Dead Rise. I mean,
Fuck that movie for the post-credit scene. That did nothing but piss me off.
Groovy.
That pissed me off so bad.
and then Evil Dead Rise was a lot of fun too because I mean, you know, for it being out of its element, you know, it wasn't.
You're out of your element, Donnie.
I mean, for it being out of the woods, like it was in like the middle of the city. Plus, I mean, I think we can all agree that the title card for Evil Dead Rise is probably one of the best ones we've ever seen.
I like Rise. Rise was a lot of fun.
Oh, when she rises up out of the water? Oh my god.
Yeah, and the logo just...
Yeah.
Not only
Yeah.
that, but the logo is reflecting
Yeah.
off the lake.
Yeah.
Oh, it is
Who does
so
that?
amazing.
Like, who's done that?
When she walks out on the boardwalk with the lady's scalp and everything,
yeah.
that perfectly set the tone for that movie.
And then, I mean, Evil Dead 2, one of my favorite moments in that entire movie is without a doubt when he's chasing his hand that he cuts off. He's chasing his hand around the house, and the hand goes into a mouse hole and gets caught in a mouse trap.
Yeah.
Out of everything
Love
that Ash has been through, like, I mean, this thing has been torturing him all night. You know, the Deadites have been like messing with him the whole time, and out of everything, I mean, not only that, but he literally killed his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But out of everything, he just takes a moment and just goes, ha,
That's,
and just like I mean, that sums up Ash as a character.
Whenever somebody asks me my favorite horror movie of all time, that's always my like go-to answer off the top of my head because of how much I do love that movie.
Right.
So my number 5.
No, isn't it your 4? Yeah.
My number 4 is a little bit of a cheat.
Oh God.
It's the Universal monster movies.
Oh no, that's fine.
So specifically with Dracula to Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to say my favorite one, my favorite like trilogy amongst them is the Frankenstein movies. Those movies were exposed to me very, very, very early on, even before Child's Play, because it was such a big part of my childhood and then my teenage years, and then discovering Monster Madness from James Rolfe, and just being able to see what started everything is huge, and I will always love those movies. Their aesthetic, the work, the important significance, Karloff, Lugosi, all of that is very, very, very important.
They're very important. It's not my forte. I know. Like
which is fair.
Yeah, no. I mean, I understand the importance they have on the horror culture and stuff like that, but it's definitely. It's always been your strong suit. Yeah,
it's been my thing, and I knew it wasn't going to be on either of your guys', so I was like, that'll be fun for me to talk about.
I still love the... I mean, I agree with you on the aesthetic of the Universal horror movies. I mean, honestly, I couldn't... Like, watching it now, like, I couldn't... You know, it's not really that big of an impact, like, as far as, like, everything, but imagine going to a movie theater in 1931.
Oh my God!
And seeing Dracula, seeing Bela Lugosi, his eyes, just in general, that stare that he has, it's still mesmerizing to this day.
It's the same fact of nowadays we don't think as Jaws or Godzilla really as horror movies, but when those movies came out, imagine the horror of people going in the water of Jaws. I mean, I know it was a big deal in Godzilla in Japan. Oh my God, it was a huge deal where it was terrifying.
Not just that, but like, not to get too political, because none of us are political at all, but like, you know, the whole... Because at the time with Godzilla, I mean, the whole nuclear
war. Yeah, it was the aftermath of nuclear war.
I mean, that was a ballsy move to do a movie like that.
It was 1954, so I mean, that stuff is relatively new. Right. So you're still experiencing everything, and then the same thing like with Jaws. Could you imagine owning a boating industry the summer Jaws came out?
Oh. No.
That would be awful.
I mean, I've talked to many people that saw that movie when it came out.
Oh yeah,
and they all said like that summer nobody
was
in the water at all.
The first summer blockbuster.
Yep.
So
all right,
we're an hour in, so we're gonna keep pace going.
Okay. Yeah. I'll speed. Then my fourth one is Evil Dead anyway, which we kind of already went over.
So we can just give like a brief introduction.
Yeah, if something's already been said, we'll just run through a brief little reason why it's important to you. But Evil Dead, the first and the second one, have a big impact on me. Obviously, like Brody said, in the horror and the comedy aspect. It's something I saw at an early age. It really impacted me. And then seeing the Evil Dead remake in theaters completely reinvigorated my love for the franchise.
Without a doubt.
Ash vs. Evil Dead was a fantastic comedy horror show.
I didn't even mention that.
Yeah,
that was what I keep referencing with the Child's Play.
I loved it. It sucks that it got canceled and it had to rush off the last season because they could have made a whole last season about that last episode. But then after Ash vs. Evil Dead, but the remake and Rise both appealed to that darker, extreme work sense of me where it just was the cheese grater scene in Rise. Oh my God, I loved that so much.
Both that and the Chucky show encapsulate what made the movie so well.
Correct.
It's so good, and it's just crazy to think about.
But I love the over-the-top. I love the extreme. I love the comedy. I love so that's where it's got to stick at my number 4.
So my number 4 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I actually saw the remake before I saw the original, and I realized what it was. The remake used to scare the living hell out of me.
Me too.
When I was younger, because I mean, this was when I first saw it. I was probably in.
I was in like 2nd grade, so
I didn't see it right when it came out. I think I might have been in middle school at that point. Yeah, I think I was like going into 6th or 7th grade, and that's when I really that's when I started getting into horror as a genre. So I was still relatively new to the genre because my parents, I mean, they don't like any of that stuff.
Yeah.
With the exception
They're
of
not
your
into that.
parents, none of our parents are.
Yeah,
your
my dad, yeah.
So I didn't really grow up with horror. I kind of just fell into it. But I think what scared me the most about the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake was the bleakness of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The music was scary as hell.
The realness to it.
The realness it.
Back then, we never saw movies like that.
No, and I mean just that scene, like that one scene when Leatherface first gets introduced, and you see, what is the guy's name? The guy in the wheelchair. Did he have a name?
Are you talking about the original?
No, the remake. The guy in the wheelchair.
Oh, isn't he just Grandpa? Isn't it? No, that's not Grandpa. That's
I can't remember.
What's his? He's the uncle dude or whatever, where he gets his legs chopped off in the beginning.
Yes.
Or not in the beginning of the movie, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the beginning.
But like watching that scene, like, and he just says to him, "You stupid pricks, you're so dead you don't even know it."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, what's gonna happen? Then all of a sudden, the freaking sliding door opens, Leatherface comes out with a chainsaw. I'm just like, holy crap.
That's
terrifying.
That movie encapsulates everything that was important about the first one and modernizes it pretty well.
Yeah.
I know I might get some shit for that, but I don't care.
So after I watched that, I like, okay, well, I want to go back and watch the original. And the original at first viewing, I thought it was kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
But like after repeat viewings, I'm like, okay, this movie is meant to be this way.
No,
Because
think
it's not super gory at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's got very little blood in it.
And that's
Which-
what the common misconception.
But look, that's what's funny to me is because obviously this movie's gonna be on my list. This franchise is gonna be on my list.
No, really?
But as the extreme guy, my appeal for that movie was, at the time, think of it in the 1970s. You're seeing this family participate in cannibalism and murder, the grittiness, sitting there, that dinner scene, just alone.
Yeah. James Rolfe always said it was like something you would watch in science class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that's on point.
I mean, it seems like a snuff film, something you shouldn't
Absolutely.
be watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially for the time.
It's like something you'd find like in your uncle's garage, like,
Yeah,
like
that's
a
a good way
fucking
to put it.
VHS tape that has like nothing on it, like no logo at all.
Do you need to talk about something? Did you find out? All right.
My number 3.
Well, it's 3, yeah.
My number 3 is Scream. So, I mean, nothing really left to say in that regard. Spoiler alert, too. Nightmare on Elm Street is not on my list. Brody said everything that I needed to say about that. However, Freddy is my favorite of the fast food franchise killers, as we say. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is probably my favorite horror sequel of all time, but I just wanted to get that out of the way now. But number 3 is Scream.
Okay.
I was one of the big ones for me. Saw it, the era we grew up in. Everybody was talking about them. I love them. I enjoy rewatching them. They're quotable. I love Matthew Lillard. I love Wes Craven. That's about.
Fair enough.
the phone, Dad.
My parents are gonna be so mad.
So yeah, just to speed it along. Go ahead.
All right. Well, my number 3 I know is not on either of y'all lists, but is the I Spit on Your Grave franchise.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear.
So, the first movie is classified as one of the most messed up movies in existence.
Oh, definitely
The idea of
It's up there with Last House on the Left.
the extended rape scene, the killings in the movie, and sitting through it nowadays, it's like very tamed. You know what scene we?
I'm gonna have to edit the word rape out.
They kissed. They kissed, and it was not consensual. But if you've seen the I Spit on Your Graves or you've heard of it, the ideal concept is this lady gets assaulted and she basically reacts how you should. She gets her revenge on these.
Good old-fashioned revenge.
Exactly.
It is a fantastic revenge film.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And the first one is a little bit dated. I have it on. I'm proud I own it on DVD. I've got it displayed at my
Hard to
house.
find.
Yeah. And the remake's capsulated actually very, very good. The remake to the I Spit on Your Grave, it is very gritty. It is uncomfortable. There's a 30-minute assault scene that you see, and it's uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
But then as you're watching the last 45 minutes to hour of that movie where this lady's getting her revenge, you're feeling you're feeling that empowerment because she is taking her back. She's taking the power, she's getting her revenge, and then they even go to make a second, which is unrelated to the first one, and then the third one, which is the first girl, except she's continuing.
I haven't seen the sequels in so long.
Yeah, the third one is the original girl just going out and getting revenge on like guys at bars who try to date rape
When did the sequels come out?
I think the remake was like 2011 or something like that,
Yeah,
and then like
that.
14, and then like 16 or something like that with the second and the third one. I don't know, but they're very.
I like
If you
those movies a
can
lot.
stomach
I love
the
her
assault
movies.
scenes and stuff like that, I'd recommend these movies. They are, if you like that kind of horror, if you like that uncomfortability, and you like the revenge story, because it is so satisfying to see what this woman does to these guys. That, I mean, it's all.
Absolutely.
It is. I mean, it's on them. It's so satisfying to see. Is
Yeah,
what I'll say.
Absolutely.
But that's my number 3.
So my number 3 is Friday the 13th. This was actually the first set of horror movies I've actually bought with my own money. I mean, I love the fact that that for so long before I saw those movies, I thought of Jason as like the main killer, but then I saw the first one. I'm like, wait a minute, where's Jason? This kind of sucks. But
Hey, Eric, did you know that the first killer?
Yeah, I actually really equally love all the entries. I didn't like 5 for the longest time, but then I learned. I learned to really love it over the last couple of years because it's everything. It's like meant to be the way it is, like really sleazy, very just dirty.
4 is probably my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, and then obviously, I think we can all unanimously agree that that ending scene of the first one scared the living hell out of me.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Him coming
where
out of the
Jason
lake.
comes out of the lake.
Scared the hell out of me.
Ridiculous. Yes.
And I mean, the second one, when Jason first gets introduced, I actually think that the burlap sack is scarier than the hockey mask.
Without a doubt.
No,
because all you see is just the one eye.
Yeah.
No, I would say it leaves less of a personality than the hockey mask.
The fourth one is definitely my favorite because it's probably got some of the best kills in it. I mean, Corey Feldman also. That's a given. My favorite portrayal of Jason was Kane Hodder in Part 7,
yeah,
even though
mine
Part
too.
7 is like the most heavily edited out of all of them.
Joe Bob Briggs said it best. He's like, the harder that these guys work, the harder that they edit them.
Yep. And then I think
agree with that.
the 09 Friday the 13th remake is probably my second favorite horror remake next to Texas Chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, what more can be said? I mean, Jason's the ultimate.
He's the Godzilla of horror.
He's probably the Godzilla
Yeah.
of horror.
He's
He's
the
like,
Godzilla
of
horror,
you can't stop him. Like there's no stopping him at all.
He's not my favorite, but I would say if someone said, draw a picture, you think horror movie, draw a picture, and they'd probably draw Jason's hockey mask.
Yeah, I mean the hockey mask. I mean,
It's iconic.
It's not just iconic, but like it became iconic not just with a machete, but like for some reason with a chainsaw.
It's a staple.
my chainsaw and hockey mask.
All right, so what? No, your number 2? Is that what it is? Yeah.
Number 2 for me is going to be the Romero Dead films.
Oh, okay.
That's a good pick.
It was very hard. It was very neck and neck with my number 1. But the Romero Dead films were impactful to me at the early age. One of my fondest memories is watching it on VHS for the first time in the Blockbuster Classic series.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Night of the Living Dead is usually, like I said, Evil Dead 2 is my favorite horror movie. Night of the Living Dead and Halloween are usually what follows those when it's just off the top of my head.
Night of the Living Dead's probably in my top 10 horror films of all
Yeah,
time.
I love those movies. I love Dawn of the Dead. I love Day of the Dead. All of them are very important to me personally. Dawn of the Dead, the 04 one, I watched that
like when it was new. Went to Blockbuster, saw the 1,000 copies they had, and I got the last one. My aunt, shout out to Aunt Fly, who rented horror movies for us all the time. Would not have seen half the horror movies that I've seen without her, but Dawn of the Dead, 04, I watch it all the time, even now. I love that movie. The other ones are okay. And
Land of the Dead is really good.
Yeah, Land of the Dead is good. Diary of the Dead is okay. And I really wish somehow, some way, we could make Shaun of the Dead part of that canon.
I don't know why they haven't.
Because it's probably because it's a part of the Cornetto trilogy,
Right.
the 3 individual films.
Right.
Which, if I could count that on this list, that would be number 1 for me. Shaun of the Dead is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Definitely top 10, probably neck and neck with Clerks in my top 5, but Shaun of the Dead and Dawn of the Dead, all of that, well, Shaun of the Dead, if it counts, but obviously those are all very important. I have a huge Dawn of the Dead poster behind me. They're very important. I will always love them. I'll always quote them and rewatch them. They are so awesome, and they're timeless.
My granddaddy once said to me, "When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth." Shout out to Ken Ford.
Oh, me? Okay. So, the second one, I guess you can't consider much of a franchise yet, but it is, I mean, at the same time you can, the Terrifier franchise.
It's going to be.
So, I guess you could, if you consider the All Hallows Eve movies.
That was the reason. So,
All Hallows
originally,
Eve is considered the first one.
I was
think.
going to set, like, limits with the franchise to say, like, there had to be at least 3. And I was like, but he's going to want to talk about Terrifier. And then I was like, well, Hallows Eve kind of counts.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So, I'm just incorporating anything that includes Art the Clown.
I love it.
Art the Clown has quickly became one of my favorite characters in horror. His personality, the violence, the kills, the fact that he went into a budget of almost nothing.
Yeah.
And like 30 times what...
Super nice guy, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damien Leone?
Yeah, me and Brody met him. Super nice guy.
30 times his budget or whatever it was.
Yeah,
with,
I mean, the budget for the first film was $35,000.
Yeah, and it made what?
$416,000.
Yeah.
22.
And that's not counting. It's probably because they re-released it.
Oh, yeah, I know it's in the millions. I know it's in the millions. 'Cause
Terrifier
they said it
2
was in
was-
like 3 millions at least.
Terrifier 2, I think, was one of the highest grossing movies from last year, and it's still on sale at Walmart. Like, you can go
But
there and
They're
get it.
they're also putting it back in the theaters in November, I think.
But anyway, watching the first Terrifier on this bootleg site or something when it first came out, hearing about it,
Yeah, you told me about
Yeah.
that forever ago,
Oh
and
my-
I had to find it.
and I watched it, and just Art the Clown encapsulated me.
He showed it to
Yeah.
me. Yeah, I just remember you were like, you have to see
The
this.
fact that he also makes no sound whatsoever.
Yeah, it's so he's a mime clown. It's just. I mean,
He's
we've
a combination of all the big guys.
Yeah,
when you
we've-
think about it.
Yep.
we've
You know?
we've had Jason and Michael the silent types. We've had Chucky doing witty stuff, but now we've got a silent guy, and he's putting on sunglasses and being funny and honking his horn. It's
It's a combination of all the good
the
stuff.
fact that he has the comedy, but also the gruesomeness, is heavily impacted him to jump to the second point of my list.
Spencer, make a song about about Terrifier on the
Yeah,
next
Spencer,
Ice Nine
make
Kills.
a song about Ice Nine Kills.
Make your next album definitely have.
But Terrifier is my 2. I love Art the Clown. I proudly display the first 2 movies. I can't wait for the third one. I know it's coming with the budget he's going to have on the third one.
Very excited.
Going to be insane. Go ahead, Brody.
So, my second is going to be Scream, because I remember even seeing that mask before I saw the movie when I was younger.
Definitely.
I mean, I think I was Ghostface one year without even seeing the movie. You know, when I was
Everybody
younger.
was, yeah.
Because that mask is just so iconic.
It is.
Was the mask iconic before the movie?
Yeah.
I would say
that's,
so.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
No,
I
it
feel
was-
like it showed
no.
up everywhere.
No, like, I can't remember the people's name, but they created the mask.
Well, because
and-
it's based on the Van Gogh or
Yeah.
Picasso painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The-
the Screamer. Yeah,
If
that's
you-
what
if
it's
you
based
look at it,
off
it looks
of.
like
yeah.
Ghostface.
Well, yeah, it does, yeah.
But I just love the meta aspect of it. I mean, shout out to Roger Jackson. I mean, he's one of the most iconic voices in horror.
Probably my favorite next to
Brad Dourif.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I really love actually. I mean, the third one's definitely the weakest one for me, but I still love it. The first two are amazing. 4 is actually probably my third favorite next to the first two.
It's up there.
Mainly because of Hayden Panettiere, because she's a horror chick in it. So, I love the last two. Scream 2022, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And then Scream 6 were awesome. I mean, like I said, what more can be said? I mean, there's so many quotable lines, and Sidney Prescott, shout out to Nev Campbell, is probably my second favorite final girl of all time.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I can guess your first one. I guess
Yeah,
that's
I
going to
can
be your
guess
number
both of
one,
yours.
isn't it?
Jeez. I wonder what my
I
number
want to
one
do
is.
that. I want to do that because I know both of you automatically. It's pretty obvious between the two of you and me which ones are your favorite.
Yeah.
What do you think my number one is?
Final girl?
No.
It'd be Ash.
Franchise. Yeah.
It'd be Ash.
Yeah. Evil Dead.
Final person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So I guess that's your number
No,
one,
that's my
leading into
number
number
one,
one.
yeah.
Okay.
Evil Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already talked about it. It's Evil Dead to me. I saw when I was 14 years old. I had seen bits and pieces. When I was 14 years old, my friend said, "Hey, there's this movie where a chick is schmaped by a tree," and I said, "That's my main." I'm like, it's a Jewish thing
Assault.
of saying.
I don't see any salt around here.
I'll pee myself right now.
All right, bet.
So that was what I was like, what? And he said, yeah, these are really fun, messed up movies. And I said, I don't know what's fun about that. And he said, no, you just got to see it. And of course, it was at Evan's house. So
Oh,
of
yeah.
course, Evan's like, well, we got to see that. The guy I sat
Yo,
through.
check this out.
Yeah, of course, we sat through the room and rubber with, but I ended up really loving them. And I would rewatch Army of Darkness all the time. And I just was like, man, I love Ash, and I decided that Ash is horror's Han Solo, and that is
I can see that.
Definitely.
That to me is why I love those franchises. Those movies would be great, but the fact that Ash and Sam Raimi, like, you combine the two of them, and you have this perfect just combination of horror and comedy and shock value and just everything that I love about horror movies is in that, and the show is phenomenal. I love the show.
Yep.
I love the remakes. It just overall, like I said, Evil Dead 2 is my go-to for off the top of my head favorite horror movie. Again, it was hard for me to choose. It would definitely go back and forth between the Dead franchise, because initially I thought that they were connected, but like I of course found out that they're not. But that and Return of the Dead I found out are not. Return of the Living Dead. But it's hard for me to choose between them because when you think horror, like, it was hard for me not to put Psycho on here.
Correct.
Because I love Psycho and Psycho 2 and Psycho 3. And I'm sure it was hard for you not to put the Rob Zombie...
I was thinking of the Firefly family.
Firefly,
Yeah.
is that what it's called?
I call it the Firefly trilogy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would
But
think. But that was almost...
Because it's a mixed bag.
Right.
Yeah, right. So, it's just one of those things. But Evil Dead, it was my first horror tattoo, was Bart dressed as Ash from Evil Dead. My favorite show and my favorite horror franchise. I will always love Evil Dead, and that's a big part of me. So, groovy.
All right. Well, I'll rock out with my first one real quick because I had a couple other things I wanted to get your guys' opinion on. My last one's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, of course, as we've talked about previously. The first one was one of the first X-rated movies.
Super important.
Yep.
It was insane that came out at that time, and the fact that they were showing cannibalism on a movie, or they didn't just show it, but they implied it rather at that dinner.
Yep.
And like Brody
Which
said,
alone was shocking
Yeah.
at the time. Yeah.
like Brody said, it's not gory if you go back and watch the first one.
It's just very, like, it's atmospheric, and I think also, like, if you're showing it to a first-time viewer, it's very uncomfortable
Yeah.
to watch. Like, you
Yep.
feel dirty after watching.
That's what I was going to say. It's implied uncomfortability.
Yeah.
Because you know what's happening, but you don't see it happen. It's almost like off-screen kills. You know these people are eating
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
You've seen them kind of murder some of these people.
Absolutely.
And then I know, like, The Next Generation and stuff isn't the greatest movies of all time with Matthew McConaughey's ass.
I
But
like that movie.
I like it too.
I
No,
like
I
that
love every
movie.
single. I mean, Texas Chainsaw 2 is a classic. Oh my god,
I love
it is so freaky. It is so
Dog
over.
will hunt. Dog will hunt.
Watching Leatherface cut off that girl's boyfriend's face, and then he wears it, and then he forces her to dance with him in the cave. That was so uncomfortable to me as a kid.
Upon rewatching those movies, I forgot how goofy they were.
Yeah, no, they're definitely goofy,
yeah.
but it's.
Yeah.
So then you get into like, I remember going to see Texas Chainsaw 3D with Kristen in high school.
Oh my god.
Goodness.
Yeah. And,
That's
or
a
no, I
throwback.
guess it was middle school or whenever that movie came out. And I went and seen that, and I saw it 3 times in theaters.
We were in high school.
Oh, were we?
Because we
Came out
knew each other.
Came out the year I graduated.
Texas Chainsaw 3D.
2012, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I saw that movie 3 times in theaters. I'm pretty sure 2 times in 3D and once in 2D. And I know that's not even the greatest one, but I was so happy to see Leatherface back on the big screen. I enjoyed Leatherface, the movie that they made.
I think that's behind Brody's head. Leatherface. Yeah.
I love
That's
the
the faculty.
I love the
Krampus
absolute
right below it.
Yeah.
twists that they give it. In the end, if you haven't seen it,
Oh,
I do
ending-
recommend
the
where you
ending twist is amazing.
yeah. And even the one they put on Netflix, I loved the facts of Leatherface coming back. He looked like a complete monster when he took on Sally. He looks like a monster when he took on everybody in that bus. I love
Do
it.
anything and you're canceled, bro.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
line in the movie.
Yeah.
and it just I love him. I will never. These guys know how much I love
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw and Leatherface, and the only one who ever rivaled it is Art the Clown, and we'll see when the 3rd Terrifier comes out. But Brody,
So, I mean, these guys, I've known this guy for 16 years. I've known you for about
11 now.
12 years.
12
years,
12 years now. I think it's pretty obvious to them and everyone that what my favorite horror franchise of all time is. It's definitely going to be Halloween. I actually have this one as well too.
Yeah, I like that one.
But just how iconic the first one is. It's right up there with. I wouldn't say it's the first slasher of all time, but it's what popularized the franchise. It's so atmospheric.
It's important.
It's important in the horror genre, and honestly, it's almost like the first one is almost like a psychological thriller. It's not so much a slasher film.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It has the best score too. For any horror
Yeah,
franchise.
John Carpenter, the GOAT, I think of all time.
Yeah,
the GOAT in horror.
Oh,
in
top
horror,
tier.
in horror soundtracks.
I would. Yeah.
Just in general. The scene that really kind of scared me the first time was when Laurie and Annie are walking home from school and they see Michael behind that
The
bush.
bush,
And
yep.
the score. The
Yeah.
score in that scene is just so terrifying.
It wouldn't be as powerful without.
And then
it.
you just see
Yeah.
him like step away from the bush and like walk away. But the mask is iconic. It's just I think what makes it so scary is that there's nothing there.
No
Like,
features.
no features at all. The second one I really love. It's one of my favorite horror sequels. Halloween 3 I think gets way
I
too
love
much hate.
Halloween 3 and I
Halloween
don't
3
care.
Halloween 3 is amazing on its own.
No.
Halloween 4 Halloween 4 is actually what introduced me to the movies.
Yeah, it was my first
I
one
first
as well.
watched Halloween 4 on AMC, on AMC's Fear Fest,
I
or
think
Monster
that's
Fest, or
how
whatever
I
it was
did it
called at
too.
the time. And at first I thought it was Jason. But then I watched it, I'm like, okay, who's this guy? And then after that I watched 5, 6, 7. I actually really like all of them. Even though I will say the second Rob Zombie one is my least favorite out of all of them. I've grown to like... I've rewatched Halloween Ends a couple times.
Oh,
Yuck.
I've grown to like it a little bit more because of like how different and out there it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
That was the worst.
I
movie
mean,
saw
I
last
literally
year.
I literally have a Michael Myers shrine at home. I have like
He does, can't confirm.
I have like
True.
I probably have like 4 different figures of Michael. I have
I got you that big Funko Pop house.
the,
Me and
the
Kier-
big Funko
yeah.
Pop house that's right on the top of my shelf. I have I have NECA figures of Michael from the 2018 film and the sequel.
Big Michael.
I have the giant Michael that was the Rob Zombie Halloween Michael.
Oh yeah, I remember when you bought that.
And I mean, what more can be said? I probably have like 4 or 5 Halloween shirts, and it's just, I think it just, the first movie really encapsulates the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like even though they filmed it in the middle of the summer in California,
Which is cool because they had to dump the bags
of leaves. Yeah,
blow them all around.
That's insane.
And it has my favorite final girl of all time, Laurie Strode. Shout out to Jamie Lee Curtis.
Mine too.
One of my favorite horror girls of all time. But you know, like I said, what more can be said about the Halloween franchise? It's iconic. I would call it Michael is part of the big 4 of horror.
Absolutely.
It's him, Freddy, Michael, Leatherface, or him,
Jason,
Freddy, Jason, and Leatherface.
Yeah,
I mean,
guys.
he's part of the big 4.
The fast
of
food
horror.
franchises, that's what I call them.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, that's my number 1 pick.
Okay. Well, I got a couple things that I wanted to ask you guys to get your opinions on.
Okay.
As we speed through real quick.
Yeah.
So, I know since we're not strictly horror, I wanted to get everybody's opinions first on CM Punk.
Oh, jeez.
You did that for me. That's you're
I thought about that on the way over. So I'm gonna talk about what I say, and then I'm gonna get.
So this
I
will
want
be
to hear
our
yours,
closing
guys.
topic on this because we all are getting ready to watch the pay-per-view today.
Well, I want to say I did have another thing where I wanted to say rest in peace, Bray Wyatt.
Absolutely,
One of the greatest performers and characters that I've ever seen in the Wrestling Federation.
Probably my favorite character since The Undertaker.
He was the modern day Undertaker, and sadly, instead, he turned into today's modern day Eddie Guerrero because he passed way too quickly.
That is a really good comparison.
So much potential. I was so excited for him to come back and to show what he could do. I'm happy he got to hold a major championship. I remember watching that Elimination Chamber and being so excited.
Yep.
Kudos to WWE for the way they handled it, too.
They did very good with that.
The wrestling community as a whole has came together on this.
And I will confirm this on the podcast. I'm going to get a Firefly logo tattoo.
And if we get
I'm in.
50 likes on this video, I will get one with him.
I'm in. All 3.
All 3. If we get 50 likes on this, both of us will get them with you.
But okay, so CM Punk. Let
me just kind of state this for anyone that's not in the wrestling world. So recently, CM Punk was terminated. His contract was terminated because of what happened at the All In pay-per-view. There was a backstage incident with Jack Perry, and Tony Khan basically said, hey, I don't want an unsafe work environment, all that stuff.
And this is not the first time that this
is
happened.
Not the first incident that Punk
This is not even the first time it's happened in AEW.
Basically, they terminated him because of his actions.
And for the record, both of us are huge CM Punk fans.
So that's what I was going to go into.
Yep.
So these guys are gigantic CM Punk's fans. I remember when CM Punk joined the new Nexus and Brody was texting me freaking out about it.
When CM Punk became the leader of the new Nexus, I'm like, this is amazing.
It was insane. I was at my Uncle Robin's house and Brody was texting me as I was sleeping on a cot because they did not have an extra bed. But anyway, these two have always been huge CM Punk fans, and I can't say he's not a great wrestler because he is a great wrestler. I can't say he's not a great talker because he is a great talker.
I mean, he's one of the best talkers on the mic.
What I can say is he is not worth the trouble that he is given.
I
agree
with that.
He got kicked out of Ring of Honor, essentially, because he was a problem. He left WWE because he was a problem. He blamed it on WWE, which WWE, I'm sure, had its faults. Obviously, you've seen, or if you're a wrestling fan, you've seen everything that happened with Vince McMahon. The WWE has its problems, but it can't be WWE's problem when Punk has now had problems with a third promotion.
Everywhere.
Twice.
And I brought that up with my cousin. I said, he's blacklisted from the industry.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, can't go to Ring of Honor.
Nope.
It's owned by AEW.
Yep.
He can't go to Japan. They have a working relationship with AEW.
Yep.
Can't go back to WWE because Triple H said
Triple H despises him.
He said let them be his problem. And you know what? The only thing left is Impact. And you know what? I don't even think with how good they've been doing lately, I don't even think that they want to deal with it.
Yeah.
No.
And I can't blame them.
And they got a working relationship with AEW sometimes
That's
too.
true. And WWE.
So, as to try to wrap this up, I guess in 6 minutes before our hour 30 mark, but I just wanted to say CM Punk will always be recognized as probably one of the greats in the industry,
Definitely.
but he is the one that ran himself into the ground and out of the business.
I still like going back and watching some of the matches he had in WWE because I mean some of the
without a
matches he
doubt.
had were amazing and not to blow smoke up his ass, but I mean that documentary WWE came
it's
out
the
with was
best.
fantastic.
That's my
You know,
favorite.
But just the fact that he's the person that he's become, and
It's so
Bitter.
opposite.
it's just
Bitter.
very, it's very,
He's a bitter old
it's,
man.
It's very sad. It's very sad because he thinks he's owed something because he's been in the business for so long, and it's like this guy essentially left the wrestling business for 7 years,
They didn't owe you anything.
Yeah.
and like nobody owes you. I mean,
You walked out on the fans.
not to like get too deep into it, but like just in life in general, no one's owed a thing in life, And the fact that he handled everything the way he handled, the fact that he's been kicked out twice, essentially the first
Of
time
the two
he was
biggest companies.
essentially he was first. Well, not just that, but like the fact that he was suspended the first time, the fact that he's had problems 2 times within the company. I saw something earlier. I mean, Roman Reigns' title reign that he's on right now has lasted longer than than Punk's AEW career.
Yeah.
He was only in the company for what now? 2 years?
Yeah, and he's
2
as
years.
and we've heard at least 3
Yeah.
backstage problems with
Yeah,
him, with
with-
him and Perry, him and the Bucks, and who else? He
Want
was
to hear something crazy?
what?
Name me one AEW drama within the last 3 years off the top of your head without thinking too heavy about it that didn't involve Punk.
Oh, well, wasn't Garvera involved with Andrade or something?
I think he was, but I think also he was involved with Andrade, and he was also involved with Eddie Kingston as well.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
I think
yeah.
they were able to.
Eddie Kingston hates everybody.
See, the difference here is that Eddie Kingston and Guevara and oh my god, it's I'm drawing a blank. Who's the other
Andrade?
Andrade. They were able to respectfully hash things out and actually make it into a decent storyline
outside
on TV,
of stuff like that,
which I think makes which I have a lot
I
of
gotta
respect
go
for.
pee again. If we're not.
We're about to wrap it
Okay.
up, but I just want to give my last opinions here before we end it. I grew up idolizing Punk. The whole time both of you have known me, I idolized CM Punk.
No,
Yeah.
CM Punk was my favorite wrestler when he was on his huge
For the
title reign.
longest time, yeah.
I loved Punk because he was relatable to me. The documentary came out and I realized how much we had in common. I really looked up to Punk. And I was so excited when he came back. And
Even I was.
I'm a big Paul Heyman guy. I'm a big, just overall Ring of Honor guy. My brother showed me Ring of Honor when I was really young. And I was really excited. And this is legitimately the first time I have been this disappointed in wrestling in a very long time. And right now, with everything going on in the world, it's selfish of Punk to deprive the fans of things in this magnitude. For his conduct to be this unprofessional and poor in this year of all time, is
fact that
unprofessional and has forever added a stain on what could have been the best legacy in pro wrestling history.
And the fact that
Don't you dare.
the fact, and I'm just going to say one more thing before we close things out. The fact that Jericho, of all people, said that he was a problem might show something.
Yeah.
Speaks for itself.
And also the fact that I actually just heard this recently. I don't know how true it is, but the fact that Samoa Joe had to convince Punk to go out and wrestle him at All In.
And they've put
He
on
almost-
some of the best matches.
Yeah.
And they're friends and rivals of the
Punk,
past.
Punk almost did not wrestle at All In because of what happened.
That's
But,
insane.
yeah, that's all I want to say about that.
Well, next week or 2 weeks, this is a bi-weekly podcast. The next
At least for
week-
the moment.
Yeah, for the moment. The following week, up until after Halloween, we are going to